Welcome, everyone, to the Disrupting Wellbeing podcast. I'm your host, Petra Belzebor, and I'm so excited. I feel like it's just a favor and a great privilege that I've got Clarke and Carrie Carlisle on the show today. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for being here. Now, it's always a little bit cringe when you get the intros, right? If you guys are award-winning speakers, I know that, and I've had it myself, where you do like the lowlights of your life peppered with the highlights. And you're like, is that what my last 43 years consist of? You know, but of course, Clarke, I saw you speak initially at Mad Summit, where you talked about your kind of journey around mental health, sports, suicide attempts. Kind of, it was just so deep and meaningful and purposeful, the way where your message came across. And then when I met Carrie, all the hugs. I believe we met on the train on the way back. Do you remember?
Yes, it was great.
We had a little kind of hug there, and I saw Carrie, just the double act and how kind of the unique mission that you both have, which is, from my perspective, we often talk about the person who suffered with their mental health. We don't often talk about the ripple effect within a family, or how partners and friends and siblings can support effectively. So it's really great work that you guys are doing. Give us a little intro. What are you guys passionate about at the moment? What are you focusing on?
Okay, why? I can't remember. Actually, do you know what makes me really anxious? So I always live in fear that we're both terrible at small talk. So he always passes it on to me. I'm really bad at this. Hopefully, this is the worst I'll get, Petra. So let's embrace ourselves.
Let's ride the wave.
The start of the year, it's really funny because everyone always talks about how super successful they are. And, oh my God, so busy. Got a book us 17 months in advance. Let me just put it out there. Start of the year is dead for us. No.
Yeah, it is.
Really quiet. The back end of the year is very busy, which is great. But yeah, the first couple of months, we have a lot of time on our hands, don't we? So that in a way, that's challenging, because it makes you question, like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this work that we feel is really important and we feel that we're called to do? Are we going to be responsible parents at the same time? Like, can we really keep this going? Because at the end of the day, every month is different, isn't it? So it's keeping yourself emotionally consistent when financially and work-wise, it's not a consistent time, is it?
It's a brilliant point.
Thank you. I am the smart one. Britain's greatest footballer. What? Britain's greatest footballer wife.
I thought these were supposed to be like a nice, easy intro. You've got deep there, baby.
Because I can't just like
It's the best way. It's the best way. I love it.
There are really significant ripple effects to this, the ebb and flow of the work that we do, especially when you have a lived history of needing external validation.
So you were going to say shit with money.
that too. That kind of weaves its way into the whole picture of everything. But when you've lived a life where your whole value has been placed in the hands of someone else, for me, from childhood growing up, being, I don't know how deep we're going to go, but, like being the black kid in a white neighborhood, the black family in a white school, and then going into football, where it doesn't matter what I think, it only matters what this one manager thinks. That gives me my worth. And then you come out of football and you're looking for that same kind of input on an equally timely basis. In football, it came daily, bang, bang, bang. You had a match on a Saturday where you're a hero, and then on a Tuesday, you're a villain. But you always had that immediate opportunity for redemption. So you come into Civvy Street and a sedentary lifestyle, and your work might come in every 3 weeks. Yeah, the flow of the cash flow and everything is so very different. So it's only due to the fact that I'm now 10 years deep in therapy that I'm able to manage this process. That I know that this 3 week, let's say 2 months of low and slow work doesn't define me as a human. It doesn't set my value and my worth, and
maybe spiral your mental health, right? If beforehand,
they make it broad brush, Petra. They think they're thinking in the macro sense. But what has happened, or what had happened to the way that my mind worked, was that if I was bad at work, it made me a bad human. So then I internally felt I was a bad husband, I was a bad brother, I was a bad friend, and it totally undermined my position in all of my identities in life. So, it's taken a long time for me to separate those things and just allow myself to accept, look, this is the flow of work. But away from that, I can still be a good husband. I can still fulfill my duties as a father, etc., etc. But
I know
it's just
laughing. I know, but I'm laughing because I'm a terrible wife. Because when Clark's not well, there's little signs, and we talk about the signs and symptoms. But there's a minute he goes and hides around the back of the fridge. Like he literally goes in the dark and hides around the back of the fridge. And I
need to go deeper into this.
It's what for. I mean, we've got a big fridge. Luckily, I bought a big fridge because it's hard to hide around a small one. But I keep finding him around the back of the fridge, and I'm like, oh no, it'll be over soon. We're back to work, and I can have my fridge back. But yeah.
So wait, what's going on in your head or your body when you need to hide behind the fridge?
Well, that's just really. I asked Carrie about it. Was it about 3 weeks ago?
No, baby, it was 48 hours ago.
Oh, right. I was
recent
in the fridge, and I said, what does it mean to you when I'm here?
It looks really funny.
What does it mean to you? Carrie delivered this full, very compassionate character assassination.
Which only a wife can do, right?
Exactly. Only a wife and an honest relationship like ours, where we know it's not judgment, it's observation. But there are different things that feed into it. We talk about these little indicators that I'm feeling suboptimal. One of them is that I'm really cold. When I start to go down, I feel physically cold all the time. So the house could be like a sauna, but I'll need to sit on the radiator. And there's a radiator right by next to the fridge.
Clarke's fridge.
So I often just go and park myself on there. Other times I'm not cold. And this is when I know that I'm actually feeling suboptimal. I'm not just going down. I'm actually getting low. When I'm behind the fridge and I'm not cold, that means I'm hiding. I'm
rubbish at hiding.
Historically, my hiding would have been in a casino for 3 days. It would have been at a bar.
Escaping.
Yeah, it would have been avoidance or escapism. But now it's like I've brought the parameters of that right in to where I'm still in my home with my loved ones and my family, but I'm just hiding around the corner. I'm kind of in contact.
That's fair. This is progress.
Oh, it took I'm going to say 8 years because we've only been together 8 years, but this is decades of taking it from, and a lot of work on Clarke's part to go from I'm just going to disappear for 3 days to I'm just going to go hide around the back of the fridge, and not saying, you better not come in yet, because, we've got lots of kids that are always hungry. So the fridge is the most terrible place to hide. So they don't mind. Like, there's no blame portion to that. I don't come in and go, what you doing hiding around the fridge again? It's just like, are you okay? Yeah. Do you need anything? No.
And that's it. These actions to us, rather than be a point of judgment and confrontation, it's a point of information and note. Yeah. So Carrie can ask me, she can say, talk to me about what's going on. Why are you behind the fridge today? Mm-hmm. And some days I can just say, do you know what? It's freezing. I just need to be on the radiator. Mm-hmm. But other days I'll be like, yeah, do you know what? Actually, I'm feeling A, B, or C. And there's a step lower than that as well.
Just go away.
No, there's a step lower as in the context of the indicators and the flags. I can be on the radiator, I can be behind the fridge, and then I can be on the radiator behind the fridge in the dark.
Yeah, actually.
And when I turn all the lights off, to me, that's my indicator that I need to take action. Mm-hmm. That's not just something of note. I'm actually in a place now that warrants me doing something.
But it doesn't even have to be like, oh my God, call an ambulance, call a doctor, call the crisis team. Like, it doesn't have to be, because we don't let things go that far anymore. We did obviously used to a lot, quite Olympically. Now I'll just say to them, hey, do you want to go to bed? And it used to be back in the day that they would go hide in bed for days at a time or sleep for days, Petra. I mean, 30, 40
And for the listeners, this is really kind of the headline of depression, right? Is that what the headline would be?
It's PTSD also. So there's a little bit of all sorts of, I mean, it's great to have a diagnosis. And I think we are safe with our diagnosis. And as soon as we get one, we can delegate most of the work to a professional and just look out for signs and symptoms, whereas before we got any sort of diagnosis, like the majority, unfortunately, of the population, you're trying to take quizzes on your phone to see if you're depressed or you're suicidal, and they're fine if you then take the advice that says go see a GP or go to A&E, if you take the guidance. But most people don't. They just stay stuck there, or they watch a meme or they watch a TikTok and go, oh yeah, that sounds like from, someone as qualified as me, quite frankly, who's just not at all. So now we're in that place where we know what doctors say to us. Any sort of slip downwards is, like Clarke says, you take note. And self-care. Like, what do you want me to do for you? And you have to be prepared for the answer delivered with love. I need you to leave me alone. I need you to stop asking me every 5 minutes why I'm hiding behind the fridge. I need you to stop asking me, am I going to kill myself? Because I used to do it every time you left the room, Petra, when you first got out of psych hospital. Are you going to the loo? No. Where are you really going? Oh, is that right? Well, last time you said you were going to the loo, you ran away.
And that's your fear and your love. And it's hard to know what to do. But you're saying now you're in a place where you have this communication or foundation where you'll be like, all right, if he needs time alone, I'm going to believe him.
Sort of. So, sometimes.
That's because, and this is another thing that's hard to get across to people.
Yeah.
We'll talk about our actions and how they've progressed, but the time scale, it's not tangible for people. There are people who will believe that if they talk about what's going on today, get their meds tomorrow, have a therapy session on Friday,
done, sorted.
How quick did
it should be.
Everything's going to be a winner. Well, it's not. It took me at least 2 years to fully stabilize. It probably took about 4 years for Carrie to get to the point where she trusted my responses. And that's not to say that I was lying in the responses through that time, but when it comes to trying to take your own life and the secrecy and the ambiguity around it, unfortunately, you have to evidence honesty and stability and certainty for a period of time.
You build trust.
Yeah, you've got to rebuild that trust. So now we take it to this point where we're 7 years down the line from that point, where Carrie can trust what I say, but also because of the work that I've put into my therapy and to being honest and to exploring the whole situation with our family and our extended family, the indicators that we're talking about now, the indicators of me dropping from a 7 out of 10 to a 5 or a 4 out of 10. When we talk about this now, we're never talking about me being in crisis. Or it being a disaster. We are. Can I just get through this?
No.
I need to get through this because there's a context to it.
Okay.
For 9 or 10 months of the year, it's mild fluctuations, but we're still hot on those. We're hot on those because they give us really good information. And then when it comes to those winter months, November, December, January, we know that that's PTSD for me. That goes back to my most brutal suicide attempt and then my dad passing in that period of time. So rather than being reactive to what's going on in those 3 months, we're proactive in our preparation for those 3 months. So we taper our work down and we make sure that we've got things structured that allow time for me to go into my man cave if necessary.
Which is not a man cave, it's a man fridge. Sorry, carry on.
The way that we approach it now in understanding, my fluctuations across the years, for 9 months of the year, we can be reactive because we're safe in the parameters of where I am and where I'm going to be. But knowing that for that last quarter of the year, getting into those winter months where I'm going to have that PTSD element in a period where my father passed away in that time as well. We have to be proactive about that. So we prepare our coping strategies for that period of time. We taper off our work schedule to make sure that there's flexibility and freedom for me to be able to stay in bed for 2 days if I need to. And one of the greatest things and the hardest things that I had to learn in order to kind of enact this self-care in that period of time is to have and learn and develop the ability to say no. In that winter period, people might ask if we will work on something, and financially we might need it. But personally, we know that we can't take the cost that it might take out of me. So we've had to establish those boundaries where actually, no, we can only do 3 pieces of work in December. And that's enough because we need to retain the flexibility, in order to engage in self-care if it's necessary.
Is it my turn now?
Well, I had a bit, yeah, Carrie, it is. And you probably want to respond to that, but I actually just have a question that, Clarke, bear with us. It might sound rude. I don't mean for it to. I've been in relationships where, I struggle with PTSD and have my mental health, but then theirs might be different, or, different people need different things. So from woman to woman, Clarke, sorry, does it ever feel like so consuming to look after your partner's mental health that your own gets a little bit lost? I don't know. Is that ever a feeling for you?
It used to before Clarke disappeared in 2017. And that was the biggest indicator that I wasn't doing it properly. The biggest indicator that we were in this, what we thought was a circle of trust, but was the prison with only 2 people in it, 2 idiots and Google. If that was a chapter in our life, it would be called 2 Idiots and Dr. Google. Me trying and him trying to manage mental health, and him telling me half of the story, the palatable half for him at the time, between us and that and the half truths, that's when it was exhausting and enervating, and that was the biggest sign that we weren't delegating it properly to the professionals. It shouldn't ever feel like I'm taking on too much. It should always feel like there's enough professionals, just professionals, mind you. Friends to offload to is different, and he can and will do that, hopefully. And I'm sure you do, actually.
I think.
Behind the fridge, he phones people, actually. He phones a lot of people. And sometimes old me would have took that personally, like, oh, you don't want to talk to me, but you do want to talk to other people, and you do frequently. And now I'm like, no, he has to. There's some things that he feel like he doesn't want to say to me. He can't say to me. It's not appropriate to say to me, and that's all right. When we take symptoms personally with one hand, and with the other hand, try and fix the person with no medical background, or even if we have medical background, like therapists aren't allowed to treat their own family, are they? There's a reason for that. So it's a great indicator if I'm feeling enervated by any of this. Sorry, I'm going around in circles here, but I can't emphasize it enough. It's just a symptom, and it's not his symptom, it's mine, which is actually what I was going to say in response to him as well, funnily enough. It's like a dance, because for so long we shared the false assumption, right? I'm sure many people do, that Clarke's the person living with depression or suicidal thoughts, and I'm the carer, I'm the partner, which infers that I'm the well one. But there is no well one.
Right.
There's just no well people. Yeah, we're all on the spectrum, apart from in lockdown where everyone took a nosedive, and that's why we're still feeling the effects, I strongly believe, because usually it's a bit of a dance. So Clarke can be displaying symptoms or not, but I can only observe his behavior through the lenses of my own good health or not. So sometimes Clarke was fine. A lot of the time Clarke was fine, but I wasn't. I was either in hypervigilance or just really overwhelmed or just still trying to process it all, or had just had a baby. And it didn't matter how well he told me he was. I couldn't believe him. It wasn't that I didn't want to. It was that I just was so far into it. I didn't have the capacity. So it was so tricky for us, wasn't it? Discovering that it didn't matter how well he was. If I wasn't well, then I still believed he was going to kill himself. And that had a bad knock-on effect for him, actually, because he was like, what can I do? It wasn't to prove, it wasn't to justify. It was genuinely no blame apportioned. What can we do to sort this? Well, we delegate it.
Mm-hmm. What can we do? Is that how the conversation went?
What can we? No. Don't know how the conversation really went, because it's really...
Yes, please.
So Clarke's out of psych hospital. We laugh too much about these things, but I'm just going to keep going. Lol. Clarke came out of psychiatric hospital. Lol. And he was all fine. He was like steadily getting better. Really doing everything, going to therapy twice a week, because when you leave psych hospital on the NHS, they make you accountable. It's a brilliant service that we are so grateful for. Twice a week he was going to counselling services. He was taking his meds, taking way less meds than he was before he went in. He was doing everything to the letter and doing it right and not trying to overdo it. Just doing normal amounts of everything for the first time in his life. And I was not good. I was in something called hypervigilance, and I didn't know what that was. But basically in my belief system, like, I was going to die, Clarke was going to die, baby was going to die, everyone we knew was going to die. And it was my job, using the power of my mind, normal, to stop this from happening. So I used to sit in the corner vibrating like a tuning fork with stress, not eating, not sleeping, not functioning at all. I was very, very lucky that my symptoms became totally unmanageable. So Clarke said to me,
I don't think you're very well.
and I went,
role reversal. Oh my goodness.
You what? You what, mate? Pardon? Because last time I saw you were in psych hospital and weren't even allowed a knife and fork. Weren't allowed shoelaces. Was an actual danger to yourself 3 weeks ago. But now you're home having all these therapy sessions and I'm not well. Oh, okay. And so and he was like, yeah.
Oh, you got your big boy pants
Yeah,
on. Now you can wear shoelaces.
All right, Mr. Mental Health. My voice got higher and higher and louder. And Clarke's danger, one of Clarke's personality traits that was a total danger to him was that he was a people pleaser. I always say he wanted to be the most popular guy in the morgue. That was his ambition, to be spoken so well of posthumously. But he just looked me in the face for the first time ever to anyone possibly. And we had an awkward 8 seconds. And then I went, yeah, I'm probably not well, actually, because my reaction was not that I'm a well person. There you go. Well, people don't act like that. So he took me to the GP and he was like, no, let's not get down the line with you. And if this hindsight's 2020, but what if that had happened to Clarke in the early noughties? Like, we wouldn't have gotten to where we gotten to. I wasn't well. I was in hypervigilance. I went on anti-anxiety meds. The GP gave me the Goldberg test, which I could have done at home anyway. It's free. Could have just done it at home. He said, you need talking therapy. You obviously like to chat. You need talking therapy. You need anti-anxiety meds. Let's make a 6-month plan and get back to you. How easy is that? And the only reason they gave me that so fast was because I'd just had a baby. That was it. That was the only reason I won the lottery there. So yeah, we had that. We didn't decide to. Isn't it funny how your brain rewrites things? Because in my mind, we're like, oh, la, 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 let's just hold hands and go to the GP. It was ugly. It was like an ugly standoff. We never fight.
So, it was an ugly 10 minutes.
Look at him. Face of power victory.
No, it was an ugly 10 minutes.
Yeah, and we'd do it every time over someone killing themselves, because that's all at one awkward conversation.
What I'm hearing is just kind of trauma on both sides, right? It's not just left to you, Clarke, in a way, where there's suicide attempts or those sorts of extremes of poor mental health. It affects the family, doesn't it? There's this kind of ripple effect out. So I'm curious as a couple, because I love this, because, you know, everyone's on the outside going like, you know, the Instagram version of their coupledom, right? And on the inside, like, that is the place where your old triggers, your insecurities, like all of the things play out, right? Because there's more risk, because the stakes are higher. You want to trust this person. It brings up all the things, right? And I don't think enough people just talk about that reality of what it takes to build a healthy relationship, because it's not just a given, right? You build it. And then you guys have kids and run a business and just all the layers kind of thrown in together. Do you have some non-negotiables as a couple, like as far as communication or space, or I don't know? Do you see it like that at all?
We're really crap communicators. Let's start there. Let's start with.
Well, it doesn't sound like that though.
We were separately and together historically awful communicators. So you'll never meet anyone that was worse communicators than us. And we were raised by probably generations of bad communicators too. So we had to do all of this deliberately. It was absolute 101, a dummy's guide to communication. But the stakes were so high that we had to learn. We really had to learn, and we've nailed it, haven't we?
Yeah. And just to qualify that, if you'd have listened to Carrie or myself for the past 20 years, you'd have heard us and thought that we were both very eloquent, articulate speakers. And we were, when we were talking about something at people.
Yeah.
But when you came into that intimate setting and you needed to be honest with that person next to you, totally different scenario. And that's why both Carrie and myself had that social anxiety. You know, put us on a stage in front of 500 people, happy days. Get us, 2 and 2 around a dinner table, that and I can only speak to my feelings, but those feelings are about, you're going to get exposed, you're going to get caught out, people are going to find out who I really am, all of that malarkey, all the anxieties around that, they come to the fore. So you bring that a step more intimate into a relationship. And both of us at the beginning were shit-feared at what the other one might think about our truth, but we worked hard on that. And telling your truth for the first time is the hardest thing that you'll do with that person who you're most intimate with. But each time you do it, it gets easier and easier and easier. But that's not to say that it's easy now. It's just easier for us to say it because over the course of 7 years, we have evidence to each other that even if we don't like what it is the other person has said, we still love them. You know, the love is there, the support is there. We're willing to listen to what will be another point of view, another perspective. We're willing to be wrong in what we think about a situation. And actually, I'd forgotten about this. We went through a period of about 18 months where Carrie would tell me something, and I had to say to her, "Thank you for telling me that. I'll get back to you with what I think." And I've been practicing it I've been talking it through with my therapist, who was absolutely...
Is that the people pleaser bit? Like to give yourself a pause button before agreeing to anything?
Yeah. So that I didn't react in emotion, I was able to respond in reflection.
Amazing.
And because, you know, I'd lived the majority of my life, through some 3+ decades, by saying whatever was necessary to appease a situation, or lying, you know, or I would make up something so to try and appease Carrie's fears. And I had to practice to not do that. Also, another aspect to that was it was so hard for me to tell Carrie some truths that I thought she wouldn't like.
Because then you have the fear of rejection or being not belonging. It's a trigger, isn't it, for all sorts of things?
Yeah.
Carrie, could you tell when he was, I want to say bullshitting you, but it wasn't like that. It's not malicious, is it? It's just your survival instinct.
Let me do what the fuck I want. I'm out of here. No, he was always so careful with my feelings. Even when he was very poorly, I remember in psych hospital, even when he honestly didn't give a shit what he was saying, some of it was crazy and just like really just like, oh wow. If it wasn't the person that you were with, he would have just been like, say that again. What was that? But he was always so careful with my feelings. He would say to me, please don't come and see me tomorrow. No one would break my heart. No one also that he would be saying stuff like, and I might not be here anyway, because I think I probably am going to kill myself in here. So that's, you know, he had to tell me the truth in that case. And he wanted to, you know, prepare me for it, I guess. But he still didn't want to hurt my feelings. And he's always been very careful with my feelings. But it's a really hard one because for him, it wasn't like, oh, we use buzzwords because I don't know how else to do it. But when people say, like, when I feel rejection, oh, that's not very nice. Oh, I feel rejected. That's not good. I might have a bit of a cry, listen to Celine Dion, I don't know what, Shawson's Creek, move on. When it says rejection, like that used to be dangerous to the point of suicide.
It was mortally wounding.
It was like rejection was so dangerous for Clarke and part of his illness that he would literally, it could put him into crisis. It really could. I hate the word trigger, but it could trigger him into that. So I think we have to be careful because common language isn't common emotion and common reaction. And we had to learn that. And I've totally forgotten the question, Petra.
So have I. But it's
bullshit.
Well, I had to get past my fear of it. Plus, I always expect everyone to tell the truth. Like, I just expect everyone to tell the truth. And then obviously he would tell me a half truth very well. That's the danger of an amazing communicator. And Clarke's right, he was when it came to talking publicly. He was a great communicator. So he would tell me his half truth so palatably that I would not even look for the
question it.
Clarke would tell me about being depressed and wouldn't go near feeling suicidal. And then when he got comfortable with suicidal, I'm going to take it to maybe last year, the year before, I can't remember which one it is. But he was very uncomfortable talking about having intrusive thought. And we had to get to a really bad point there where he had to tell me, these are the intrusive thoughts I'm having and I don't want to traumatize you with them. And I'm like, I already know you're having them because you told me them every day in psych hospital. Just because you don't remember them doesn't mean that I don't remember them. Like, you can't scare me. We have to get to that new breakthrough. You cannot scare me because you've already told me so much stuff that terrified me and we're still here. So there's a freedom there, isn't there?
There is.
So yeah, can I tell when he's bullshit to me? Probably not, actually. If Clarke's poorly, Clarke is cleverer. Poorly Clarke is cleverer than non-poorly Clarke sometimes. Isn't that a terrifying concept?
Yeah, I'm far more scheming and manipulative when I'm poorly because
it's because it's fear. Again, when we feel unsafe, we will do everything in our primal kind of instinct power to make ourselves feel safe. And if that means I'm vulnerable, and if I say something that you don't like and you then reject me, that's going to spiral me to no end, right? And so you probably think you're protecting both of you. You're protecting everyone. But really it's protecting that insecurity, the little boy inside who's just really terrified of being rejected.
Totally.
So many
100%.
things. I want to go in so many directions. Carrie, think about this, and I'll come back to you in a minute, just around any misconceptions when it comes to how we should help, right? You know how people think, like, can we ask directly if somebody's suicidal? What can we do? That sort of thing. So just hold on to that one for a second. Clarke, when you were mentioning, like,
you will have to honest my memory. Perimenopause, Petra, I'm all over the place. When you come back, give me the question again, because I'll be like a goldfish.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, misconceptions. But Clarke, so you talk about psych ward. I went and spoke, I didn't speak. I listened to David Harewood. I don't know if you read his book, Maybe I Don't Belong Here. And he sort of did a launch thing at the South Bank, and me and my son went, and he talked about his experience in psych wards as a Black man. And the statistics around kind of medication and, just treatment, unconscious bias just playing out systemically within the system. And I'm just curious if, what your experience was like from that perspective.
I've just studied all of that. Everything, about all the intersectionality of the aspects of whether gender, class, race, religion, et cetera, and your treatment within the mental health system. And the vast majority of the statistics I can't attest to.
Right. Okay.
I can't, because my lived experience is the polar opposite. My first 2 trips to psych hospital were private hospital, and it was paid for by the Players Union. So I got incredible care while I was in there, treated like a hotel guest. So that's nothing like the stories and anecdotes that are reading here. When I went into NHS psych hospital, I received the greatest care that I've had, other than when I went in for my physical injuries after my suicide attempt in 2014. I mean, that was miraculous. That was life-saving. With regards to the psychological stuff, I went into Blackburn psych unit, and there's a real disconnect for me, because I see the top line statistics, I hear the anecdotal experience, and mine was totally removed. And this is where I have to be able to talk about things and say, and, as opposed to saying, but. Because if I say those are the statistics, but this is my experience, that's trying to invalidate one or the other. So we try and compare experience with experience to see which is the right and worthy one. Well, no, they're both valid and they both happened. My experience is different to David's. There were 2 Asian men in my psych ward. I was the only Black person. While I was in there, it was the furthest thing from my mind was the makeup of the students, of the patients, clients, and service users in the ward. I had a multi-ethnic, multidisciplinary team. My overarching supervising clinician was a Black African man. My main therapist was an Asian woman. A lot of the daily help were a multi-ethnicity group. I can't attest to those figures. But I think the most important thing for me was, while I was in it, it was utterly irrelevant to me. Utterly irrelevant. The times it became relevant to me was when I was nearly well and I was looking for a therapist. That's when it was relevant for me, because I needed that resonance. I needed to find a connection. I needed to feel like I was speaking to someone to whom I wouldn't have to justify my experience. I could just relay my experience, and they would understand to some degree.
The context would be there. It would be a given. Yeah.
As you know, and the amazing thing is the person who I found that resonance with, it wasn't a Black therapist. It was a 70-year-old Scouse white therapist. And it was because there were so many similarities in the course of his journey and the othering and the you know, the classifications that he'd had him imposed on in his lifetime, that we found resonance with it, and it was amazing. But my point, my answer to your question is that there are so many different experiences, and I don't want to invalidate David's because I've seen his happen more often than mine.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that when I was in crisis, it was utterly relevant to me. But when I started to get better and I needed that connection, you know, when I'm suicidal, I don't think I've got a connection
You're
with
in survival mode. Yeah.
Exactly. But when I needed that connection to start to feel like there was someone who could help and support, then that's when it became relevant to me. Does that make sense?
I wish I had you. Go ahead.
Weirdly, you couldn't be in David's documentary because you were in psych hospital when he was filming it. Like that, yeah. David was making a documentary on his experiences, and he was like, "Can Clarke be in it?" His agents reached out, and I was like, "He's literally in psych ward right now." And they were like, "Oh, okay."
Wow,
So,
timing.
couldn't. That's why that connection never really. Yeah, but yeah, what an inspiration. He's doing great, David, as well, isn't he?
Oh, I love just the voice that he's given, and each of us. You know how people get nervous about their stories and think, "What do I have to offer?" Maybe it's a busy landscape, but each of us has a unique angle, right? On from our perspective and from you guys as a couple and your individual perspectives, you know. So it's just a beautiful thing that you guys are sharing, even though you're acknowledging that life's not perfect. You know, your mental health is still like this. You've got busy seasons and quiet seasons where all the stuff comes up again. But the difference now is communication and I guess managing it. And I think I'm hearing that both of you take responsibility for your own mental health and asking for what you need. But also there's this kind of crossover where you get to support each other, a sort of beautiful balance.
There's also a shitload of practice.
Mm-hmm.
We practice this stuff deliberately. We practice the hell out of it. That's the difference. That is the only difference between us and any other couple that I know. Literally that.
You put the reps in.
We practice the hell out of it, and we are relentless in it. Relentless.
You've got to be conscious of what it is that you're doing, because we're all practicing something every day, Petra. Yeah. You're practicing your emotional responses and your coping mechanisms every day. But are you aware of what it is that you're practicing? If not, then you're probably doing the same things that you were doing as a kid and thinking that serves you now as an adult. You know, you're just reacting on autopilot.
You've got to practice suicidal thoughts a lot before you take action. From what I've seen in Clarke's experience, anyway, everyone's different, but you've got to really practice this stuff. Because imagine waking up with all of these intrusive thoughts, like just all of a sudden out of nowhere. No, you couldn't. Your brain has to be sneaky and let this stuff in. So we just do the opposite now with our wellness. We let this stuff in and practice it. That's our norm.
My intrusive thoughts have been really hard for me to accept that they happen. You know, for the most part of my life, I thought that my first thought was indicative of who I was as a person. You know,
you just had to go with it. Your thoughts were you.
Exactly. Yeah. Clarke, that's the real you. That's the authentic you. Beat myself up about wanting to poke Carrie in the eye. I'm like, no, it's just an intrusive thought. You're not going to do it. You know, it's just an intrusive thought in that moment of emotion or annoyance or whatever. I never would.
Both, Carrie.
I never would do it.
Not now you would.
But now I know that those intrusive thoughts are just whatever they are. But when I'm suboptimal, they can be quite dominant. And it's taken a lot of practice for me to proffer myself another thought. And that's how I manage my intrusive thoughts now. So
it's mindset. It's training your mind, isn't it? And in responding.
Exactly.
And the practice. So
I have to see it.
I want to make sure, Carrie, we don't forget your question, which was around, you know, the misconceptions that people have as the partner, the helper, the friend when somebody is struggling. So lots of people think, especially at work. So I do these sorts of conversations in the workplace, as you guys do. And they're like, ooh, we can't ask them, are you suicidal, for example? Like, what have you learned in your journey that are useful questions or less useful questions? What are people getting wrong?
It's just a shitload of bad advice out there.
So much. Exactly.
Bad advice out there. There's more and more bad advice. There wasn't as much bad advice when we were starting. There's also some very good advice. And to have the confidence to be able to embody any of this is usually through lived experience. If you don't have to get into that uncomfortable space, you don't put yourself there. And that's all right. Like, I get it. I've seen really unhelpful things like bring your whole self to work. Why? What if your whole self is like a racist or sexist? Don't bring your whole self to work if you're like extreme right wing, because you probably won't like that. Like, they might, but they probably won't. So I say, no, don't bring your whole self to work, because there's reasons why bits of you stay at home, and everyone has to have a certain amount, I don't like the word, but tolerance for each other at work. A lot of the time it's a very small environment, and there's a company ethos that you have to adhere to a lot of the time. And so that's the bits you bring to work. You bring the bits that adhere, and then you suppress the other stuff for at home. And that's just, otherwise HR are very busy. We don't like that. So bring your whole self to work. No, let's not bring our whole self to work. Let's bring the acceptable bits of us to work, our professional selves to work. Not because masking. And if you're having to mask to be at work, then that's a very big indicator that you shouldn't be there, or you should be spending an hour a week with a therapist or whatever. So I also hate, and if hate's a strong word, I hate trigger warnings. I hate them.
So do I. Tell me why.
Everyone gives them every time we open our mouth, basically, because everything we say is a trigger about something. Our life is like that. I get that. I feel like they're not terribly useful, because they're just like, oh, don't look over there, because you might have stuff that you need to deal with. Don't deal with your stuff. Just don't look at it. Don't like that.
Right.
You know what they do at the end of programs where they say, if you've been affected by any of this, call this number. I think that's great, but put it at the beginning. Like, oh, hey, you might see this stuff and it might trigger you, and that's normal and that's okay. And that's just your brain being really smart and trying to help you. But if you do, why not try these numbers? Put that at the start, not just, hey, don't look over here in case you get triggered. I hope you do get triggered. I hope your brain says to you, I really need you to help me with this. You don't drive along in your petrol like, I've just passed my test, so I can finally do this one. You just driver in the world. So the light comes on. I don't kick it. I don't punch it. I don't put sellotape over it. Like, I'm out of petrol. I need to go fill it with petrol. It's just trying to tell me.
And it's information.
So
I'm glad you had that small rant, because it's always within me. And I think we're weirdly mollycoddling people and kind of thinking like, my story is a real story. And if you say you have to put a trigger warning ahead of my story, you're for weirdly invalidating my story and kind of saying that, ooh, you should keep that under wraps. You're a bit much. That's a bit too much for people. Maybe just, hold back a little bit. And I think, well, if we're all going to be holding back, then we're not going to know that, a Black man can be suicidal, right? Or that a female parent can be going through all the things that you go through as a helper, that I have PTSD as well. And it shows up in weird ways when I'm least expecting it, and I have to manage it. And that sometimes takes a lot of energy, right? So if we're all kind of tiptoeing around this, you've got me ranting now, Carrie. I think this goes against what we're trying to do, which is open the conversation around mental health. And then crucially, what's my responsibility when it comes to managing my mindset, as you spoke so beautifully about, Clarke? And what is our collective responsibility if we're trying to get a job done, or if we're in a family unit, that sort of thing? Okay, rant over. But I think you're with me there.
I am 100% with you on this. We are, definitely. And especially about knowing responsibilities and boundaries. It's, as an employer, your responsibility isn't to fix your employees. It's to have a strategy and a protocol that if A happens, you go down this pathway to find B, C, and D. And there it is. Delegate the responsibility. No ambiguity. Right. This is what you disclose. This is the pathway you go down. And that's why we hate this, bring your whole self to work. No, you apply a professional persona at work because you've got a job to do. You present what is appropriate to that audience at that time. But like Carrie said, if you're putting the mask on in order to hide something, then it's incumbent on the employer to ensure that there's a process and a place to go and assess what you're hiding. Or if it's not there at work, the responsibility is within the individual to have that space and that process to go and find what it is that they're hiding, because no one can do it for them.
But it's all right I have to be careful because I don't want to be unkind. And there's always a really well-meaning incentive behind a lot of the tips that have been around for a long time. Talk to someone. It's time to talk. And we fully endorse these things and the wonderful charities that help people and do this. We just feel like some of the stuff doesn't quite work and we aren't getting the results that we need. And these statistics keep being high just for the sake of a few minor tweaks. So we will say, tell someone, and Clarke will say, tell the right someone. So his thing is tell the professional. My thing is that I've had to learn, if someone's going to come to me and tell me that they're feeling suicidal or they're unwell, if I react badly, number one, I've got to take responsibility for that. I have to ensure that my reaction, although it might be genuine, don't want to hide it, doesn't put them off getting help. Like, don't let the other person's reaction then, which is what we do so much. You tell your partner, oh, look, I'm not right. Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. Let's crack on. No, you're all right. It'll be fine.
You'll be fine tomorrow. It's just a phase. Yeah.
Let's get you some, let's go for dinner. Let's go on holiday. Let's whatever. No, like, you don't have to listen to me. Don't put any weight of importance on my response because I love you, but I'm not a mental health professional. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So that's what we say. Yeah, it's time to talk. Let's be super choosy about A, who we tell, and B, who we listen to the reaction of.
I feel like we need to, because I'm a little bit in the workplace, I do think we outsource mental health a little bit too much. So this might be, I don't know if we agree here, but if we think mental health is about everybody, of course you, Clarke, have experienced the more extreme end, and many people do, and then you do need a professional. But I sometimes think, like, if the manager is always going, "Ooh, you're talking about your mental health," and it could just be like, I'm going through a divorce and I'm feeling a bit down, and just the life, the normal life stuff that sort of occurs. And then we go, call the helpline. Ooh, go to CHR, right? In a way, I feel like we're sometimes outsourcing people as the problem by going to professionals rather than saying, actually, we can all develop the skills of curiosity, empathy, and effective signposting. Those tweaks. Everyone's saying signposting.
We can't all do that. Like, we literally can't. And it's having and realizing how much autism is in our family, how much, at least 50% of us are neurodivergent. Some people, we have seen so many managers, particularly managers of people, who are not, who do not have the aptitude for people relations, who are being burnt out because they just want to do their job and they're not in HR and their job is to literally manage people to get jobs done. That's just their job. Like, especially if they work with numbers or something like that. And they're getting burnt out because they're trying to have all these emotionally complex conversations that for whatever reason they can't. And I don't think that's fair. I think there needs to be a point where you can say, do you know what? I'm not really a people's person and not expect to get hauled up to HR for it. I think it's too much. I really do, Petra.
What do you reckon, Clarke?
Forever wish on you married to.
Uh-oh, that just became a pic. Remember whose house you're in at the moment, right? I'm on a screen. I'm over here. Well.
Oh, no. And to Petra's point, I think because, we
let's watch diplomacy play out right now while he makes us both right. I love it.
We conflate adverse mental health with just standard emotional well-being.
Right.
And it's all in the one box.
Yes.
There is a certain point where it can't be within the remit of the staff. It can't be within the remit of the individuals. But then people, they conflate being well with happiness or with a smooth life. And that's not the way that it is. It means being well means that no matter what happens, you can manage and respond accordingly to all these situations. So when you're talking about someone being able to have, the compassion and the empathy to just have that standard conversation, an active listener who is confident and competent about where to signpost someone, we think that should be trained within people once you get to that middle management stage. And it's fundamentally important at middle manager stage because you might have a company ethos, but people report to their line managers. And if their line manager holds one set of values or beliefs or principles that they are pushing down on those staff, they're gonna react and respond directly to this person. because that's their avenue to get higher or pursue. So this is the, what do you call it, D-suite? Is that what they're called? This is the level of staff that I think needs the training in that
The
regard.
skills.
That being said, Carrie's 100% right.
That's all you have to say. Really.
It's only
You
now.
should have led with that.
I think our awareness and understanding around neurodiversity is where the mental health conversation was 20 years ago. So we're only just starting to see not only what it is, but the extent and nature of it. And I think if you talk to people about neurodiversity now, if we did a survey, there would still be huge numbers who view it in this dichotomous way. You're either severely autistic,
black or white,
or you're normal, and they'll use that word, normal. So understanding the language, understanding the spectrum of neurodiversity, et cetera, and how there are loads of people of our generation who are high achievers in industry, blah, 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 who have actually done it in spite of their neurodiversity. And they're burning out now. They're burning out, they're, trying to conform to this neurotypical world and processes, one aspect of which being us expecting them to talk about emotions in this regard, when they don't have the capacity or capability for one reason or another. So I agree with you, Petra. I believe we should train people at this level, and we have to have that awareness that not everyone has the capacity to do it, but it's in the training that you will find out.
And not even capacity, just not
emotional intelligence.
Well, just maybe they just don't want to either. Like, that's all in the world. Some people just aren't people's people. Clarke will talk to absolutely anyone, and especially when we got together, my phone is always on 24 hours a day. Like, what the hell is that? My phone's not on 24 hours a day. I don't want to talk to most people. And I think that it's all right to own that and go, I'm going to find out who to point you towards. And it's not because I don't think that I'm not taking your problem seriously, and it's not because I'm a terrible person. This is just not my thing. So please, let's get you an answer. Thank you for sharing it with me. Don't think I'm going to do the justice that you deserve for this. So let's find someone that can. It's all right to just not be very interested in this stuff. And it doesn't matter if you're neurodiverse or neurotypical. Like, no.
But that's still a basic level conversation of saying, okay, I'm hearing something. Maybe there's something, I'm concerned about or you're concerned about. And I'm just going to take that at face value that you're concerned about it and then recommend and be like,
yeah,
sorry.
Like a serial killer when I say things like that. I'm like, oh, don't say it to psychology people. Is that like a red flag for someone who's just absolutely not asked about people? Genuinely, I'd love to know.
I wouldn't go as far as red flag. I think to Clarke's point, there's like this whole spectrum of gray area and nuance in being human, right? And so it's just thinking about which bits can we support each other with. We're all looking for a bit more connection and belonging. And so it doesn't mean everybody needs to be doing the same thing or to the same level, but there's the workplace is one thing as a manager, but given statistics, we're likely to experience poor mental health in our families, in our partnerships, in our friendship groups, right? So that's where I guess it's that skills piece of being open ourselves, knowing what our limitations are, because I agree with you there. And then kind of saying, hey, if you ever want more support, did you know we've got X, Y, and Z support? So I think we're all right. We are all right. It's different, isn't it?
Signposters. That's what we all need to be.
We had to learn as well that if people, especially because everyone's got a platform now, if someone sees people talking about stuff on their platform, that doesn't mean that that particular person is the answer to your question. Like,
so true.
Save you, and we had to learn that early doors. You can't save other people. Yeah, you can signpost them, like we say, but you can't be their answer. And anyone that tries to be their answer, and we've all gone through that phase, haven't we, of trying to save people, goes horribly wrong. And then there's a lot of resentment there because they're like, well, you were supposed to do this and that. Well, so I think there's a currency to it as well. Not even sort of like another step of people pleasing. If people feel like they're the helper and they're the one that helps people, and that's their currency, and that's how they please people. It's hard to step back from that and take that away from them. Sometimes we've seen that in the workplace as well, where people go, but I'm the one that helps. I'm the fixer in the office. I'm the one that everyone comes to for a hug. Well, no, just go do your job. And we like you anyway. You're fine. Don't worry.
Oh my, I mean, that's a whole rabbit hole, isn't it? The helper type. And I often talk to HR people that you've gone into helper type professions. And what is it in our story, our history that leads us to be in those professions, right? Where do we get our self-worth from? And so that affects how we play a part, right? To be there for others, not trusting. When I trained as a coach, there was this kind of poster on the wall that said, people are creative, resourceful, and whole. And the reason for drilling that into us was that even as a coach, even as a therapist, it is not your job to fix people, or they're on their own journey. And we can trust that they are creative, resourceful, and whole. And that means they have resources. It's just their journey to find them or to look out for them, So I think I agree with you there. I want to respect.
Complicated though, just a little bit. I'm creating a little helper. I know I am, because our 4-year-old helps our 6-year-old, because our 6-year-old is severe autistic, has other disabilities as well. And how I try and get her to understand that Bo is a bit different and needs more help. Esley's become Mummy's little helper. Esley helps her get dressed, helps her get fed, helps her. And I'm thinking, oh my God, am I setting her up now for a life of her currency being helpful to others? So that it's mad, the stuff that you shouldn't do at work, and then trying to implement that at home.
The brilliant part of that, though, is that because you're aware of it, you can try and consciously counter it. So Esley's potty training at the minute, and she used a potty the other day, and just towards the end of the day, I was like, Esley, I'm so proud of you. And she said, Daddy, why are you proud? And I was like, and I was like, actually, this is brilliant. This is an opportunity for me to, endorse and reinforce all the things that I wanted to be. I said, I'm proud because you're strong and you're intelligent, and and I reeled off all this list of things. And then she said, and I did a poo in my potty. Yes, and you did a poo in your potty, girl. But I think the top line for me to what Carrie's saying is, when you become aware of that there's a generational and societal conditioning that's going on with your children, and B, we have an opportunity, to plant seeds in that level of conversation. Our parents never had that. We really have an opportunity to not only evidence good behavior to good behavior, or evidence good values to our children, but also we can inject where we think little bits are missing. So, just that little simple question from Esley, why are you proud of me? I mean, we could have said, we're proud of you because of something very specific, very heteronormative, very neurotypical, but we don't. We use those opportunities to plant what's missing. But the fact that she asked that question at 4, I was so proud of that as well. Really inquisitive child. Anyway, I digress.
Carry on.
No, beautiful. As you know, I've got 2 kids, and so they're young adults now. I definitely know how they get roles as young kids that are enforced upon them without even your intention, right? The pretty one, the funny one, the smart one, like these sorts of things. So trying to counter that with praise for them as people. Like, I love how you showed up today. Or, things that aren't just aesthetics, or making their self-worth kind of internal. And I had to realize, because I speak to my young adult children about generational trauma and the parts of my background where I was the perpetrator, because many times the victim, kind of that cycle is like that fear cycle, as you were talking about, Clarke. We become the perpetrators unintentionally due to our own kind of traumas and stuff. And so I had to realize, as you said, our parents didn't have these conversations with us. We're not going to get it perfect or have every right conversation with our kids, but we're going to chip away just one layer maybe against that generational trauma to give them the additional insight to then chip away with their generation. Like, that's how I've had to navigate it, so that I don't get, the parental guilt of like, oh, I didn't say the right thing, or I'm not going to say the right thing. But it's more about giving them the tools to assess themselves and hopefully just do better than kind of our parents' generation did. So I have one final question, which I ask all of my guests, and each of you will have to answer it in whichever way you want to. And the question is, what is the most radical change you think we need when it comes to well-being and the focus on mental health that we see in the world today? What is the most radical change? And it can be personal, workplace, whatever comes up for you. Who wants to go first?
I'm not sure if it is radical because it's been pushed in certain quarters. The foundation of well-being for me is emotional literacy and emotional communication in the right places. Get it in early, get it taught in schools. Kids know exactly what to do if they've got a nosebleed, if they burn their hands, blah, 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 blah. It needs to be a foundation knowledge of humans to understand what what emotions are. Secondly, how they manifest in themselves. That self-awareness of this feeling means, fear for me, or I react like that because it's anger or it's sadness, blah, blah, blah. And then how to process them, how to safely process them and where. You get those three right, I think that a lot of the other dominoes, they just line up.
And as much as that might not feel radical, I actually think it is, because we're not getting it right yet in so many generations. So it is that foundation piece. I completely agree with you there. Carrie, what do you reckon?
Don't know if it's radical at all, but to me, it's common sense and it's entirely doable. Zero rate suicide. Like, we know how to fix one person. We should know how to make everyone be safe. You can get one person into a place of safety from a place of being total danger to themselves. We can replicate that over and over again, whether it's zero male suicide first, zero female, then all for all. Zero rate suicide is within reach, and we'll need to accept that we're doing a few fundamental things wrong, and that's all that's keeping us from it.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Is it?
Yeah.
Seems common sense to me. How? Are you alive?
I am.
Were you really poorly?
Yeah, I was.
Then fucking hell, what are we waiting for?
But not everyone has an all-line.
Well, then let's get more all-lets.
But it's hopeful, because you are here, Clarke, and that's hopeful for the future for others as well. Beautiful. Where can people find you guys if they want to book you for speaking or getting involved?
Don't forget my book. It was
Let's see it. Beautiful.
My daughter went, "Look, Mammy, it's Bing. Bing is a rabbit, a fictional rabbit." And I was like, "That's not Bing, mate. That's me 2 kids ago." All right, face tune. So, you can find us in that book, and you can also find us, I don't know, LinkedIn. We're on there quite a bit. Clarke and Carrie Carlisle.
ClarkeandCarrie.com is our website. You can find out everything you need. Just the most basic of information.
You guys are very Googleable anyway, so it's all good. But we'll put all of that information in the show notes of the podcast. Thank you both. I know you don't always do podcasts. I appreciate you so much, and just think you have such a powerful message. And I'm so privileged to know you guys and count you as friends. I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Petra. It was a pleasure. Anytime.